Hello again, guys, and welcome back. This is a video on line graphs and pie charts. So far, we have had videos on bar graphs, diagrams, and tables. So this is a continuation of that. This is part 2 with line graphs and pie charts. Again, very important to make sure that you are following the rules. Natural science, you do line graphs and pie charts. Life science, you do life science line graphs where we connect the dots, and pie charts. And for physical science, we do line graphs with the line of best fit, but we don't do pie charts. So depending on what you need, take from this video what you will. Okay, let's get started. First thing is line graphs. There are two different types of line graphs. Your teachers should be a little bit specific on what type of graph they expect you to draw. In natural science, it is generally the physical science line graph that we like to do, but sometimes your school might make you do the life science line graph. I will get into the differences just now, but just know that physical science, we do a line of best fit, and in a life science line graph, we connect the dots. You may not connect the dots in a physical science graph. So those of you in grade 10 and 11 and 12 for physical science, you will not connect the dots. And if you're doing life science, you will not do line of best fit. Okay, line graphs are there to record the data from the table in a more visual way so that we can actually see the relationship between the different things. Okay, so same as with the bar graph, the independent is on the x-axis and the dependent is on the y-axis. You must have both variables on the axes. Okay. Again, heading must be included. It must have the independent and the dependent variable. Remember, independent is the one that I can control. Dependent is the one that I can't control. Heading, again, must be underlined in ink and it must be printed above. Okay, then you've got to again work out a suitable scale for the x and the y. Suitable meaning starting from 0 and going up. I find a lot of the time learners try and skip the 0 and then just start from 5. No, it has to start at 0. Where your x and your y axes meet, here, this is called the origin. That is where your 0 is, 0x, 0y. Please make sure you know this. You can't start from 5 down here. That doesn't work. So you need to get your suitable scale and it must be going up. You need to go up in even numbers. Okay, so again, x is your independent and y is your dependent. For line graphs, sometimes your dependent variable might be time. Okay, so if you can't control the time and let's say it's the rate of a reaction and it takes 5 minutes to react, you might not be able to control that time. So it would be your dependent variable. But there's a problem with the concept that the independent is always on the x. It's not when time is involved. When time is involved, then time is always on the x, even if it is not your independent. Because remember, time is linear. It has to go towards the right. So even if time is your dependent, time must still go on the x-axis. It's just one of the exceptions to the rule. You're just going to have to learn that. Okay. Don't forget to label both sets of axes, and you must include your units if units are there. Like temperature is in degrees Celsius, height is in meters, centimeters, mass is in kilograms, grams. Please do put your units. Okay, and then please plot the points accurately. We don't want a big circle like this. That's not going to be accurate. We want a nice little dot so that we know exactly where your dot is. Depending on the size of your graph, sometimes your dot can be a little bit bigger. It just depends. Okay, but a nice little dot is fine. We don't need such a big dot like that. Okay, so for a physical science line graph, we need to join the points with a solid line. We are not playing connect the dots. Okay, in physical science, we do not connect the dots. We do something called a line of best fit. Okay, so the line of best fit must always go through the origin, okay, if it's starting from 0. So if your graph is like this, it must start at 0, okay, and it must then go straight up. If you are starting, let's say, from 10, it must go from here straight up. if it's starting from 50 and your information is going down, it would then come down. But it must start on the y-axis at the 0. Okay, so your line of best fit is a straight line starting from the origin, from the 0y, going down, going up, depending on where. The most normal one is the one, oh, my board is going weird, is going from the middle going up like that. That's the most normal line of best fit, but sometimes you can start from here or even up there. Okay, so in physical science, we use a line of best fit. We do not connect the dots. Okay, this is an example of a line of best fit. The beauty of a line of best fit is that in physical science, we want experiments to be perfect. We want them to be accurate. And in real life, that's not possible, okay? So we have this line of best fit where our information should be. This is where our information should exist, on this line. But in real life, it doesn't work like that. People are breathing on the Bunsen burner. Wind comes through the window. Or maybe the Bunsen burner runs out of gas. Or maybe the ice wasn't melted at a specific, or frozen at a specific temperature. There's lots of things that could go wrong with the experiment. So in physical science, we do a line of best fit to see where our information should be. So all of these dots should technically be on the line, but they're not, because we don't live in an ideal world. These dots are not on the line, but we want to know where the line should possibly be. So we say, take your ruler from the origin and go through majority of the dots. Put it through the middle of the dots so that you're getting as many dots as you possibly can, and you're getting an idea of where it should actually be. Okay, this is another example, but now we're starting up here. So obviously our experiment started up at 9 and is going towards 0. And again, this is my line of best fit. It is showing the middle of where all of these dots are. It's where my information should be, but due to mistakes, common error, human error, whatever, the line is not going through all of the dots. This is a physical science line graph. We are trying to see where the dots should be, not where the dots actually are, because in science, we like to pretend we live in an ideal world. Okay, this is another line of best fit, but it's more of a curved line. Okay, again, here are all the dots. You can see this one's quite a bit far out. The rest are not too bad. Okay, and we do a curved line of best fits. There's no point starting it up here and going down like this when you can see that there's a curve going. Okay, so follow the curved line coming around. Line of best fit doesn't have to be a specifically straight line if you know you're going to get a curved line graph. Okay. Next then is a life science graph. Life science graphs, we join the points so that you are connecting the dots. Life science graph, everything is related. It's not about being in an ideal world. We know that things go wrong. So for life science, we connect the dots so that we see where they actually are in real life. So here's an example of a life science line graph where we're going up and down and around, and we connect the dots. Still straight lines, but we're connecting the dots. Okay, another version of it, again, connecting the dots, showing how it goes up and down and up and down. All of the information is related to each other, so we like to connect the dots that way. Another version of it, again, we have them coming a bit straight. Suddenly you see this increase in April, comes down, increase in August, comes down. Okay, so this is your life science line graph where you are connecting the dots to show how the information is related to each other. It's not a physical science graph because we are not seeing where the average is. Okay, we are more worried in life science about how everything relates. Okay, so please make sure that you are learning the difference between a life science line graph and a physical science line graph. In natural science, be specific with your teacher. Ask them which graph they specifically want you to draw. If they don't say anything, you should get marks for both. But me personally, I do teach the physical science method. It just depends on what topic you're doing. So let's say you're doing photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is life science, so you're going to draw a life science line graph. If you were doing electricity, you're going to draw a physical science line graph. So it's based on what topic you're specifically doing the graph for. For those grade 10, 11s, and 12s who are watching this, obviously you're going to know which graph you're going to do because you're going to be doing for life science or physical science. Okay, I hope that helped a little bit. The next thing we're going to do is pie charts. Pie charts are one of those things that are very, very tedious. It's a lot of work for not much marks. It's really, really annoying, but sometimes you just got to do it, and especially in life science where we do them quite a lot. Natural science, you might get them once or twice. In physical science, we don't do pie charts, but life science do tend to do pie charts specifically. I think it's grade 11 more than grade 10, but you do need to know them. So here are the steps. I always like working with steps. So step 1 is do a heading. Okay, remember headings underlined in pen, printed at the top of the chart. Okay, always give your heading. Most of the time you're going to have your independent and dependent variable, or you could just say pie chart showing animals at the water hole or something like that. Okay, then once you've given yourself a heading, you're going to go and you're going to draw a circle. We draw circles using our compasses, okay? Because as you can see, we do not do freehand circles. It doesn't work. So draw a circle using your compass. Where your compass point is into the middle of the page, put a dot, okay? So draw a circle and draw a middle dot. Where that little dot is where your compass is making the insert into the page, that's where I want you to draw your little dot, okay? Then, once you have your dot, you can start. First thing you want to do is you want to take from the 12 o'clock, like you're reading a clock, from the 12, go down to the middle of the dot. That is where your chunk is going to start. That's where the first slice of your pie is going to start. We always start at the 12 o'clock, okay? And we always go from the biggest chunk of the pie to the smallest chunk of the pie, okay? So we're always going to have the biggest chunk at the 12 o'clock, and we're going to go from biggest to smallest clockwise around the pie chart. So we're going to draw the circle, we're going to put our dot, we're going to put our 12 o'clock line in, and then from there we can draw our chunks of pie, okay? So once we've drawn our 12 o'clock line in, then we have to first calculate percentage and calculate degrees. Unfortunately, there's a lot of maths involved in this part because you have to do quite a few calculations. If you don't do the calculations, you are not going to get the marks because you won't know what chunk of the pie counts for what. Okay, so you have to make sure that you are calculating the percentage and the degrees. Okay, so then the next one then is plot the pie chart using the degrees that you measured, okay, from biggest to smallest, and then don't forget my key. Some teachers want you to do a key, some teachers don't. Ask your teacher what she wants, but most of the time it's nice to have a key either on the side, over here have a key, or actually in the pie chunk you can say whatever it is, okay. So you have to calculate both the percentage and the degrees. The percentage gives you how much of that variable there is. So 20% of the pie is zebra, okay? And the degrees is to be able to see the size of the chunk, to actually use your protractor to measure. Because a lot of the time the teachers are going to take a pre-drawn pie chart, put it over your pie and see whether your chunks are the right size. And if your chunks are not the right size, you're not going to get the marks. Okay, please do not guess. Do the calculations. They're tedious, yes, but if you guess, you're not going to get it right. Okay, first calculation. We're going to use this calculation to calculate the percentage of each category. You need the percentage to know how much of each chunk. We're going to use this for the labels. We don't use the percentage to measure protractor-wise. We use the percentage to do for the labels. Okay, so when we're trying to work out percentage, we take the number in that category. So let's say there were 45 impala at the watering hole, okay? Then I divide it by the total number in that whole thing. So if I look at the table I used for my different animals at the water hole at 6 o'clock, I would have said, okay, there were 45 impala, there were 37 zebra, there were 10 wildebeest, and there were 7 elephants. So there were 45 impala out of 99 animals that showed up. Okay, so 45 impala and 99 animals that showed up. Okay, that is the information I got from the table. I then times it by 100, and that is going to give me 45.45%. Okay, I'm going to do that for all of them. So this is for the impala. The next one was 37 zebra. So 37 zebra divided by 99 out of all the animals that showed up at the watering hole times by 100. And then I'm going to go, okay, there were 10 wildebeest. Divide by the 99 animals that showed up at the watering hole times by 100. Then there were 7 elephants. Divided by the 99 animals that showed up at the watering hole times by 100. And if you add all of these percentages together, they should come to 100%. Please try and round off to 2 decimal places unless your teacher tells you otherwise. Okay, but most of the time we do 2 decimal places. Sometimes you can do 1 to make it a little bit easier, but 2 is that general for the sciences. Okay, so percentage, we're doing these percentages for the labels, for the key, not to draw the diagram. Okay, so we're doing these percentages for the key. We take how many of the thing there were, so petals on a leaf, whatever. So if I took 5 flowers and there were 4 petals on this leaf, okay, divided by the total number of petals, how many ever it was, and then times by 100 will then give me the degrees. Okay, so here's that table I was talking about. 45, 37, 10, and 7 makes 99. So to calculate the percentage of impala, we take the 45, we divide it by the total number of animals there were at the watering hole, and we times it by 100, and that will give us our percentage. Okay, so percentage is not too bad. That is giving us our labels, okay, not the chunk of the pie. This is for the label, it's for the key. Then this equation is for the degrees. This is for the chunks of the pie. This is telling you how big of a chunk you need to draw using your protractor. Okay, you need your protractor for the degrees, or else your chunks will not be the right size. So again, your degrees is equal to the number in the category, which was 45 impala, divided by the total number in the data, which was 99 animals that showed up to the watering hole. So 45 divided by 95, and there are 360 degrees in a circle. So now instead of timesing by 100, we are timesing by 360. So we times that by 360 and we get 163.63 degrees. So now you go to your circle you drew. So you had your circle, okay, you had your little line in the middle, you had your line going up. Now with your protractor, you're going to put the 0 degrees over here, and you're going to measure 163.63, and then this is your chunk of impala. Okay, so then obviously you can use your key and you can say this is your impala. Okay, so this is then your chunk that you drew of 163. The other one was 37. So 37 divided by 99 that showed up at the watering hole, okay, times by 360, times by 360, because there are 360 degrees in a circle, gives you 134.54. So again, you go to your line here. You don't start at this line anymore. This line is irrelevant. We now start at this line. Here's where you put your 0 degrees of your protractor again. And from here, you're going to measure going around. So you're going to measure 134. So it's about here. Well, not really, but you're going to measure your 134. And you're going to say, okay, over here is my, I think it was wildebeest or whatever it was. So now this is my wildebeest. You're going to measure. Again, this then becomes your 0 degree line. And then you're going to measure going around. So then that was your other thing. And then the last one again, this becomes your 0 degree line and you're going to measure going around. You cannot leave your protractor on this line and measure here. That's not how it works. You need to change your protractor around to every new line you draw. Okay, so it's very, very important that you do both of these calculations, your degrees and your percentage. The degrees tell you how many degrees you need to use your protractor to actually draw the circle, and your percentage gives you the percentage that you need to label, and all are very, very important. Okay, so you use your protractor to measure the size of each angle, and you draw the line from the center of the circle to the edge. Color each area representing the different categories to separate them from one another. If you don't have color, you can use numbers, you can use letters, whatever you need, shapes, hearts, whatever, but colors tend to work a little bit better. So here is a pie chart based on a table that we had, different shoe types, and it says a pie chart showing the percentage of each brand of sneaker sold at the Shoe Source in November 1997. Okay, so here's an idea of a key. So they said number 1 is representing Nike. So instead of colors, they use numbers. So the first chunk, okay, we have the 12 o'clock line over here. We have the dot in the middle, and it says 32%. Either you can write the 32% in here, or you can draw it in a key like this. You would have done the calculation to know that this chunk was, let's say, 120 degrees. So let's say this was 120 degrees. You had to do the calculation first to find that this was 120 and second to find that this was 32, because you will probably get marks for each of those. Okay, so you need to do the calculation so that you can do the pie chart really, really easily. Use color, use numbers, use letters, whatever you need. Here's an example again of another pie chart. Again, please look biggest to smallest from the 12 o'clock. Okay, this is the biggest part of the chunk to the smallest part of the chunk as the clock goes from 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock again. Okay, this is another one again, biggest chunk to smallest chunk. They've used colors. Can you see they've used the percentages inside instead of putting them outside here? Both are correct. You can do both ways, but you have to do your calculations to know that this chunk was this size. So let's say 270, let's say this is 290 degrees using your protractor. Then you need to know that this was like 10 degrees and this was 8 degrees and 6 degrees. You need to do your calculation for your degrees so you know how big of a chunk to draw using your protractor, and you need to use the calculation for the percentage so that you can do it for the labels. You need to do both or you won't get the marks. Okay, I hope this helps. Post some questions if you have any questions, and then I'll try and answer them as much as I can. Thank you. Until next time, bye.